You know what drives me absolutely up the wall? It is when people act like basic human decency is some kind of exclusive membership club that they can just revoke whenever they feel like it. My name is Vanessa. I am 29 years old. I work as a senior brand manager at a logistics firm in the city. I am good at what I do. I am sharp, I am organized, and I demand respect because I have earned it. My husband, Derek, and I have been married for 3 years, and honestly, up until recently, I thought we were fine. Boring, maybe, predictable, but fine. But there is this situation at work, a situation that has been clawing at the inside of my skull for months. It is this guy, Caleb. And look, I am not going to sit here and pretend he isn't attractive. He is. Tall, dark hair, that brooding jawline that usually implies depth, but in his case, just implies arrogance. For 6 months, Caleb has walked past my desk every single morning. He has walked past me, and he has walked past Sarah, the girl who sits opposite me. And he treats us like we are made of glass. I am talking about absolute zero acknowledgement. No good morning, no nod. He will not even make eye contact. He stares straight ahead, his eyes fixed on some invisible point in the distance, marching toward his cubicle like a soldier. But here is the kicker. Here is the part that makes my blood boil. 5 minutes later, I will hear him in the break room. I will hear him laughing. A deep, relaxed laugh. He chats with the guys from IT. He jokes with the older men in accounts. He is capable of speech. He is capable of warmth. He just chooses to withhold it from me. From the women, it is calculated. I know it is. When I first brought this up to Derek, I expected validation. I expected my husband to be outraged on my behalf. We were sitting at the dinner table. I had made a roast chicken, perfectly seasoned, and Derek was scrolling through his tablet, barely chewing. Maybe he is just shy, Derek said. He did not even look up. I stopped eating. I put my fork down. The metal made a sharp clink against the china. Shy? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Derek, there is a difference between being shy and being discriminatory. He talks to the men. He ignores the women. That is not shyness. That is a power play. Derek sighed. It was a long-suffering sigh that he thinks I don't notice. Vanessa, you always do this. You read too much into things. Maybe he is intimidated by you. You can be intense. Intense. That was the word that snapped something inside me. I am not intense. I am a woman who refuses to be treated like furniture. And the fact that my own husband, the man who swore to honor me, was taking the side of a rude stranger over his wife, that was unforgivable. I looked at Derek. Really looked at him. He is average height, starting to lose his hair a bit at the temples, with soft hands that have never done a day of hard labor. He avoids conflict like it is a disease. He wants peace at any cost, even if the cost is my dignity. Fine, I said. If I am so intense, maybe you would prefer some quiet. That was the night the silence began. I did not scream. I did not throw plates. I simply withdrew. I call it the silence punishment. It is a lesson. If Derek thinks my voice is too intense, then he does not deserve to hear it at all. For the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost in my own house. I cooked dinner, but I ate alone. I slept in the bed, but I built a wall of pillows between us. When he asked me a question, I would give him a one-word answer, or better yet, I would just stare at him until he looked away nervously. I watched him squirm. I watched him try to make small talk, his voice cracking a little. How was work? He would ask. Silence. Did you want to watch a movie? I would just stand up and walk out of the room. It felt good. It felt like power. I was reclaiming the control that Caleb was trying to take from me at work, and that Derek was trying to minimize at home. Meanwhile, at the office, I decided to escalate things. If Caleb wanted to pretend I didn't exist, I was going to make sure he couldn't ignore me. I pulled Sarah aside one day. Sarah is sweet, but she is a follower. She needs someone to tell her how to feel. Does it creep you out? I asked her, keeping my voice low, conspiratorial. The way Caleb acts? It feels predatory, doesn't it? Like he is assessing us and finding us unworthy. Sarah blinked. I guess? I thought he was just quiet. No, I insisted. It is hostile environment stuff, Sarah. He is creating tension. It makes me feel unsafe, like we have to walk on eggshells. By the end of the week, I had convinced Sarah that Caleb's silence was a form of aggression. We went to HR together. I did most of the talking, of course. I used all the right buzzwords: exclusionary behavior, gender bias, hostile work environment. The meeting with our manager, Mr. Henderson, was satisfying. I watched him take notes. I watched him nod gravely. "We take this very seriously, Vanessa," he said. "Everyone should feel comfortable here." 2 days later, Caleb was called into the office. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I saw him. He looked pale. He looked terrified. He was wringing his hands together, his shoulders hunched. Good, I thought. Feel it. Feel what it is like to be small. When he came out, he looked like he was going to be sick. He walked back to his desk, eyes on the floor. That evening, Derek tried to bridge the gap again. He brought me flowers. Cheap supermarket roses. Please, he said, standing in the kitchen doorway. "Can we stop this? I hate it when you are like this. I am sorry if I wasn't supportive." I looked at the flowers. Then I looked at him. "Put them in a vase if you want," I said coldly. "I am going to take a bath." I left him standing there. He looked pathetic. And honestly, his weakness disgusted me. He was apologizing just to make the discomfort stop, not because he actually understood why I was angry. He was weak. But Caleb? The next day, Caleb changed. He started saying "good morning," but it was forced. It was a mumbled "morning," directed at his shoes as he hurried past. I felt a thrill of victory. I had forced him to bend. But then, something shifted. It was a Tuesday. I was in the copy room, waiting for a collated report. The door opened and Caleb walked in. When he saw me, he froze. He actually took a step back, like he wanted to run. I can come back," he stammered. I looked at him, really looked at him. Up close, his anxiety was palpable. He was shaking, and suddenly, my anger evaporated, replaced by something else, something darker. I realized he wasn't arrogant. He was terrified. He was terrified of me. And that was intoxicating. I took a step toward him. I saw his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed. "You don't have to leave, Caleb," I said. My voice dropped an octave. It was the voice I used when I wanted something. "I don't bite, unless I am asked to." His eyes widened. He looked like a deer in headlights, but he didn't move. I didn't mean to be rude," he whispered. "Before, I am not good with people. Especially women?" I stepped closer. I was in his personal space now. I could smell his cologne. It was expensive. Cedarwood and anxiety. "Especially beautiful women," he murmured. The words seemed to slip out before he could stop them. His face turned bright red. The air in the small room suddenly felt very heavy, very hot. I thought about Derek at home. Derek with his apologies and his soft hands and his desperation for peace. Derek, who made me feel like a nagging mother. Here was a man who looked at me like I was a predator. A dangerous, beautiful predator. "You should have just said that," I whispered. I reached out and brushed a piece of lint off his lapel. My hand lingered on his chest. I felt his heart hammering against his ribs. It was beating so fast. "I am sorry," he breathed. "Don't be sorry," I said, looking up into his eyes. "Make it up to me." That was how it started. It wasn't a romance. Please, do not misunderstand. I am not some starry-eyed teenager. It was a transaction of power. We started having lunch together in his car. We drove to the back of the parking lot, under the shade of the old oak trees. The windows were tinted. The first time we kissed, he was trembling. He kissed me like he was drowning, and I was the only oxygen in the world. It was messy and desperate and incredibly validating. I went home that night and looked at Derek with a new sense of superiority. He was sitting on the couch, watching a game show. He looked up, hopeful. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I replied. I didn't smile, but I didn't ignore him. I threw him a crumb. "Did you have a good day?" he asked, eager like a puppy. "Productive," I said. "Very productive." I went upstairs to shower, scrubbing Caleb's scent off my skin, watching the water swirl down the drain. I didn't feel guilty. Why should I? Derek had abandoned me emotionally when he dismissed my feelings. He had broken the contract of our marriage first. I was just finding comfort. I was finding someone who actually saw me. The affair continued for 3 months. It was exhilarating. At work, Caleb and I played a game. He would still act nervous around me, but now, when our eyes met across the room, there was a secret heat. I owned him. I had taken the man who ignored me and turned him into a man who was obsessed with me. But at home, things were getting strange. Derek had stopped trying to make peace. About a month into my affair, the begging stopped. The flowers stopped. The sad puppy dog looks stopped. He became busy. He started going to the gym. He bought new shirts. He started working late. Project at the office, he would say, breezing past me in the hallway without trying to touch me. At first I thought, good. He is finally learning to be independent. My punishment worked. He realizes he can't just rely on me for his emotional validation. I was so arrogant. I was so wrapped up in my own narrative that I didn't see what was happening. I thought I was the queen of the chessboard. I thought Derek was just a pawn. But while Derek was pulling away, Caleb was getting too close. He started texting me on weekends. Miss you, thinking about you. When are you going to leave him? That last one made me recoil. Leave him? Who said anything about leaving? I didn't want to divorce Derek. Derek was safe. Derek paid half the mortgage. Derek was the stability that allowed me to have my fun. Caleb was a toy. You don't move in with a toy. You need to stop texting me at home, I told Caleb the next day in his car. My voice was sharp. He looked hurt. But Vanessa, I love you. You said you were unhappy? You said he doesn't understand you? I am unhappy, I snapped. That doesn't mean I want to blow up my life, Caleb. You are being clingy. It is not attractive. I saw the light go out in his eyes. He slumped back in the seat. I thought we were building something. We are building a sexual harassment lawsuit if you aren't careful, I said cruelly. Pull yourself together. I started using the silence punishment on Caleb too. When he texted, I didn't answer. When he tried to talk to me about us at work, I walked away. I was surrounded by men, and yet I felt like the only real person in the world. They were just orbiters. Satellites. Then came the dinner party. It was at Derek's brother's house. A family gathering. I didn't want to go, but appearances must be maintained. I wore a red dress. I looked stunning. Derek wore a suit. He looked fitter. I noticed that his shoulders were broader. He seemed confident. He was laughing with his brother, holding a glass of wine. He didn't look like the beaten-down husband I was used to. We were sitting around the table, eating steak. The conversation turned to work. Derek's sister-in-law, a gossipy woman named Brenda, started talking about a guy at her office who got fired for sending inappropriate emails. It is crazy what people think they can get away with, Brenda said. Derek took a sip of his wine. He set the glass down slowly. Funny you should mention that, Derek said. His voice was calm. Conversational. Vanessa had a situation at work recently, didn't you, honey? I froze. My fork hovered halfway to my mouth. What? I said. Derek looked at me. He smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The guy. Caleb, Derek said. You were telling me how he was harassing you, how he was making you feel uncomfortable. The table went quiet. Everyone looked at me. That was months ago, I said, my heart starting to pound. It is resolved. Is it? Derek asked. He leaned forward. Because from what I hear, it got much more complicated. Didn't you say he was stalking you? Or, wait, maybe I misunderstood. He reached into his jacket pocket. Derek, what are you doing? I hissed. I was just confused, he said, pulling out his phone. Because you told me this man was a monster. You told me he disrespected you. But then, he tapped the screen and slid the phone across the tablecloth. It spun and stopped in front of his brother. Then I saw the photos, Derek said. His brother looked at the phone. His eyes widened. He looked up at me, then back at the phone. Jesus. Vanessa, his brother whispered. I snatched the phone. It was a photo of me and Caleb. In his car. My head was thrown back. His hand was in my hair. It was unmistakable. It was graphic. The room seemed to tilt. The air was sucked out of the dining room. I looked at Derek. He was calmly cutting his steak. You. I couldn't breathe. You had me followed? I was worried, Derek said, his voice dripping with mock concern. You were so distant. You were punishing me with your silence for weeks, Vanessa. I thought you were depressed. I thought you were in trouble. So, yes, I hired a private investigator to make sure you were okay. He took a bite of steak and chewed slowly. Turns out, you were just cheating on me with the guy you tried to get fired. You son of a bitch! I screamed. I stood up, knocking my chair over. You planned this. You brought me here to humiliate me. I brought you here, Derek said, standing up to face me, because I wanted witnesses. I wanted my family to know exactly why I am filing for divorce, and why you are going to be leaving our house with nothing. You can't do that, I spat. I will take half of everything. Not with the prenup, he said calmly, and not with the morality clause you signed. Remember? The one my father insisted on? Infidelity voids your claim to the assets. I stared at him. I had forgotten. I had completely forgotten. And, Derek continued, his voice hardening, losing all traces of the soft, weak man I thought I knew. I have already sent a copy of the investigator's report to your company's HR department. And to Caleb's wife. Caleb doesn't have a wife, I stammered. Fiancé then, Derek shrugged. Whatever she is. She seemed very interested in the pictures. I felt like I was falling. The room was spinning. The silence I had weaponized. He had been using it against me. While I was ignoring him, thinking I was winning, he was gathering ammunition. He was sharpening the knife. I ran out. I grabbed my purse and ran to the car. I drove home, screaming. I screamed until my throat bled. When I got to the house, the locks were already changed. My suitcases were on the porch. 3 of them. That was it. 3 years of marriage, reduced to 3 suitcases sitting in the damp night air. I pounded on the door. Derek, open this door. You can't do this. The door didn't open. The lights inside were off. The house was completely silent. He was giving me exactly what I had given him. The divorce was brutal. Derek wasn't weak. He was meticulous. He was an accountant, for God's sake. He had documented everything. Every text I sent him that was cruel. Every time I refused to speak to him. And of course, the affair. I lost the house. I lost my savings to legal fees trying to fight him, but it was useless. I lost my job, too. When HR saw the evidence that I had pressured a subordinate I had previously reported for harassment into a sexual relationship, they didn't just fire me. They escorted me out of the building by security. Caleb? He transferred. He ran away to a branch in another state. He didn't even say goodbye. He ghosted me. The ultimate silence. It has been 11 months now. I live in a small apartment on the edge of the city. The walls are thin. I can hear my neighbors arguing. I can hear the traffic. I work as a freelance consultant now, which is a fancy way of saying I beg for scraps of work from people who don't know my reputation. Last week, I saw them. I was at the grocery store, buying a single frozen dinner. And there they were, in the produce aisle, Derek and Sarah. My Sarah, the girl from the office, the follower. They were laughing. Derek was holding a basket of apples. Sarah said something, and he threw his head back and laughed, a real, genuine laugh that I hadn't heard in years. He looked happy. He looked light. Sarah touched his arm. It was such a gentle, easy gesture. No power play, no tension, just affection. I stood behind a display of onions, freezing. My heart hammered against my ribs, just like Caleb's had that day in the copy room. But this wasn't excitement. It was panic. They looked like a team. They looked like partners. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march over there and slap the smile off his face. I wanted to tell Sarah that she was a traitor, that she was boring, that she was nothing compared to me. But I didn't. I stayed hidden behind the onions. I watched them walk to the checkout, their hands brushing against each other. I realized then that I had been the villain in my own story. But admitting that would mean shattering the only thing I had left, my pride. So I drove back to my empty apartment. I ate my frozen dinner in front of the television. The silence in the room was deafening. It pressed against my ears. It filled my throat. I used to think silence was a weapon. I thought it was a way to punish people, to make them beg for my attention. I was wrong. Silence isn't a weapon. It is a mirror. And when I look into it now, with no husband, no lover, no career, and no friends, I don't see a powerful woman. I don't see a victim. I see absolutely no one at all. And the worst part? The phone doesn't ring. The messages don't come. I finally have all the quiet I asked for.